In today's video, I'm going to show you why we just walked away from a deal when the seller wouldn't renegotiate. Let's dive right in. If you're new here, my name's Ryan Dossey, and I like to be the resource that I was looking for when I just started out. So I like to show you the ins and outs of real estate investing, stuff that other people might charge you for, but we'll just give it to you. So I'm going to show you in my CRM how we found this deal, our negotiation, analysis of it, and ultimately why we chose to walk away. Now, at the start of this video, I mentioned that we walked away when the seller wouldn't renegotiate. Just to be clear, especially if you're new here, I'm not in the habit of making sellers offers that I don't think will work out to then beat them down after an inspection. It's actually really rare for us to renegotiate on a deal after an inspection. We tend to be pretty accurate with our walkthroughs, and it's even more rare that we just walk away or that the seller refuses to be flexible. I'm going to show you the actual deal in the CRM, how we found it, what list, what mail piece, all the internal workings. And I'm even going to walk you through the inspection report on why we decided this one just wasn't for us, as well as kind of an internal conversation we had on this deal, showing you kind of our various thoughts on exit strategies and why we decided it just wasn't for us. Diving into Resimply. So let me show you how we found this particular deal. So this one was on a list of niche lists from PS. PS stands for PropStream. PropStream's the data provider that we use. They've got a 7-day free trial. It's an affiliate link. We'll throw it down below. But you can pull out 10,000 records a month for 99 bucks. I've got tons of videos on the channel of how to pull these lists, but effectively just kind of punch in the market you're in, and then you can filter through all kinds of stuff. This particular one was on a blend of niche lists. So what that means is we pulled county or zip codes and blended together a bunch of people that maybe have stuff going on. So expired MLS, potentially inherited, vacant, divorce, probate, liens on the property, that kind of stuff, right? So on this particular deal, they were on one of those lists. We threw them on the Americana Sequence at Ballpoint. How that works, it's kind of set it and forget it for 7 months. So how that works, you literally throw the list in and they get a different piece of mail every single month. These kind of vary the call to action. So in my experience, people call on the one that clicks with them. Folks that need a guaranteed closing date are more likely to call off this one. Folks that want to be done quick, more likely to call off that one, so on and so forth. Basically, set it and forget it, runs for 7 months, and there's a 20% discount on those, which is kind of sweet. So this was on the Americana Sequence to PropStream data. Call Porter takes all of my inbound calls on everything except for commercial assets. They've taken every call I've had since we launched that company back in 2017. It's folks in the US, just like you and me. They take well north of 10,000 calls a month. So very experienced in only talking to sellers. It's very motivation, condition, and they'll even push for an appointment on that initial call. So we can see the notes on this one. Seller called in. These are the notes from the Call Porter rep. Deb, house needs a lot of work. Call him back after we drive by it if we're interested. It's on a canal. He's, quote, put some real money into the property. Wants to hear offers first, has some problems with the air conditioning, said it needs $1,500 to fix the roof, which is hilarious. We'll get to that in a second. There was a hurricane 5 years ago and he rents it for $1,500. This is kind of a slumlord sitch, which you're going to see here in a second. So on this particular deal, you can see Gus's actual analysis on it. We made an offer of $210K that the gentleman accepted. And we estimated we'd need to put around $50,000 into it and that we could sell it for $345. So like I've mentioned in previous videos, anytime we're going to actually take a deal down, I tend to inspect them. I didn't used to do that, but I got bit in the rear pretty hard multiple times. So instead of being surprised when somebody does an inspection when I go to sell a flip, I want to know what they're going to find before they find it so I can fix it. So on this one, we did a full-blown inspection. Let's hop into that report and show you guys what went wrong. The folks we had do this one were Orion Home Inspections. I don't know that we've used them before or not, but the inspection was solid. So this was the actual house. It was on a canal. And I'm going to kind of scroll through some of this. Now, I'm going to kind of go through and hit some of this stuff that like wouldn't really bother me in case you've never gotten an inspection report. Inspectors' jobs are to find anything and everything wrong, to inform you, but also to justify the cost you paid. So we've seen inspectors make mountains out of molehills. So let me run through this and walk you through like what didn't really bother me and then what did. So tile not like even on the exterior of the house. All right, whatever. Porch tile damaged. Again, not a big deal. Patio paver stones, not really worried about it. Deck and grading kind of stuff. Like, yeah, I wouldn't stand on that deck out over the water, right? Might be something you want to repair or replace, but not a big deal. Some wood type issues, which are, pretty common. In Florida, there's a big like termite problem. So that is something that you'd want to look at. Aluminum like damage to the soffit, right? Like we could clearly see that looking at this. We didn't need an inspector to tell us that. Doorbell inoperative, like, doesn't really matter. Windows are older aluminum windows, pretty common in Florida, depending on the price point, may or may not be an issue. For $345 might need to be replaced. Screens are missing. Again, like not a big deal. I just sold my primary house and there was like not screens on most of the windows and it went for $550 and they didn't care. Exterior outlets not functioning, loose at wall, like, okay, pretty minor. Hose bib, all right, pretty minor. The roof on this like looks decent. There's some missing and more in shingles. Remember, homie said it needed $1,500 worth of roofing. We'll get to that here in a minute. I actually appreciated they had a disclaimer on here that was like, we're not roofers, so reach out to a roofing company if you're so inclined. Like, I appreciate that. It's probably them covering their rear, but also like, hey, you might want to get a second opinion on this. Garage door opener inoperative. Again, like not necessarily a huge deal. Ceiling paints, where it starts to get interesting. Evidence of past or present water damage. Okay. Walls, mold-like substance. Awesome. Okay, so that's in one room. Some concrete cracks, right? Like often that's not a big deal. I think the typical rule of thumb is like, is it vertical cracks are less of a deal, less of an issue than horizontal cracks? If you're watching this and throw it in the comment. I've always used the rule of thumb, like if I can't fit a dime into it, it's probably not that big of a deal. Exposed wires, not that big of a deal. Windows, all right. Panel, getting kind of gnarly, right? These are all rusted out, like probably going to need to replace some stuff in there. Here's where it gets fun though. So my guess is the roof was just trashed, was leaking, water damaged, and they just threw new shingles on it. So the actual like wood trusses that support the house, like dry rotted, water damaged kind of a thing. The plywood, moisture damaged, right? Like actually wet. This property had a horrible rat problem. So they'd actually chewed through wiring, ducts, things of that nature. Missing insulation, not that big of a deal. Visible moisture stains, right? So clearly there's something going on up there, and this isn't just a $1,500 issue. Air conditioning unit wasn't functioning. It was 92 degrees in the house that this guy's renting out for $1,500. What an a-hole. Like, it's just wild. So, units not working. Another issue we started to run into. So the ductwork was metal, rusted, moldy, and like falling apart from the rats and was nearly 50 years old. So all of the ductwork was going to have to be re-pulled out, re-ran, which isn't fun. Yes, there's some loopholes, right? Like you can run sleeves and stuff, but big issue. Again, mold-like substance present, not things you want to see, right? We'll often get like in Indiana where we do deals, like the basements are kind of damp. You'll get like biological growth. It's not that big of a deal, but mold inside the AC unit system in the air ducts is an issue. Leaking PVC and stuff, not that big of a deal. Rusted out water heater, no problem. We were planning on replacing it anyway. Evidence of moisture damage in the bathrooms. This gets a little bit more fun in here. Water damage under the sink, like that's pretty typical, not a big deal. But then we start to get into things like, let's see here. The bathrooms, it seems like were pretty much just not super functional, which sucks. But ran into issues with the tenants in here. Rear bedroom, not inspected due to hostile tenant. So we have a hostile tenant in a rat-infested, mold-ridden property with caving-in roof trusses without air conditioning in summer. Rented for $1,500 a month, which I doubt he's collecting. Several other kind of references in here to like couldn't check out the living space due to hostile tenants. You might want to take a closer look at that, right? Again, more mold-like substances, and that's, kind of it. So I'm going to have my editor, Michael, actually throw like this up on screen so you can see what we were looking at. But effectively, we were under contract for 210 and we needed to retrade down to 190 for this to make sense for us. We'd budgeted for like 50K in repairs, and that number was looking closer to 65 or 70K. So really just looking to kind of make up that difference. On this one, if the seller wouldn't have budged at all and if everything went perfect, we would have made like 39K. But there's a lot of unknowns. The roof trusses, the hostile tenant, the mold, right? Any claims they may or may not have there. And the seller just refused. He said we'd offered him 210. He'd only take 210. He wasn't going to be flexible or anything at all. This is one of those situations that sucks. Like the folks that are living in here, whether it's all they can afford or not, like this just is not a good, safe situation to be in. I think this really highlights the importance of not selling yourself on doing deals that you shouldn't do. We like to have like a 20% profit margin on this deal. We would have been at like maybe 10% if things went according to plan. Where we're at in the market, the amount of repair that this place needs, that's just too thin for us. And that's why we decided ultimately no deal on this one. I realize these are a little bit more niche and a little bit less sexy, like, how I bought a Ferrari off of real estate kind of stuff. But hopefully you guys enjoy these. These are kind of the real things that happen on the day-to-day in this business. And everybody likes to share the wins of like new deal under contract, but what about when it falls out? Thank you for taking the time to hang out with me today. Again, my name was Ryan Dossey. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're getting value out of these, tell your friends.